All right. One of the things that I'm trying to help promote is for people to, number one, get in the kitchen a little bit more and prepare some of their own foods. And number two, eat as many vegetables as possible. So obviously, one of the things that you guys can do if you're trying to incorporate more vegetables into your daily routine is to make a little vegetable tray. Cutting up some cucumbers and carrots and celery sticks ahead of time. This is just a simple yogurt dip. Obviously, there are a lot of other plant-based options for dips. Hummus is a good one. So this is one way of doing it. One of the things that I have been kind of getting the preparations going for today is one of my favorites, tabbouleh. Right? So this is a simple Mediterranean dish that has several amazing ingredients that have a ton of health benefits. The base is basically just parsley. You can use either curly parsley or flat leaf parsley. I chose flat leaf today, so it took me a little bit of time, probably 25 minutes or so, to de-stem the two bunches of parsley. But once you get that going, I have a food processor here, so I'm going to go ahead and take the parsley and just put it in the food processor. And the other ingredient is some mint leaves. And typically the grocery store has a packet, just a small packet, and that winds up being about the perfect amount of mint. You don't need too much mint. They say probably anywhere from 1/4 of a cup to 1/2 of a cup packed. So I'm just going to go ahead and put the mint and the parsley in there. Of course, you don't need a food processor to make this. You can just cut it up on a cutting board. I happen to have a food processor on hand, so I'm going to go ahead and use that one. And I'm just going to pulse it. You don't need to obviously pulverize it, but just pulsing it several times until I can kind of see that I've got the consistency that I'm looking for. I think that's probably about good. Okay, so that's pretty easy. Wipe the sides a little bit. I don't like to waste anything. Okay, and then I'm going to take what I just pulsed and I'm going to pour it in my bowl. I've got some chickpeas cooking on the stove so that I can make my own hummus. I haven't done that in a while. All right, so I'm being careful not to upset the blade here too much. Just set that in the sink while I get the rest of it. And the other ingredients, this is optional, but I typically use just some simple cherry tomatoes or plum tomatoes. And what I do is I slice them in half. If you look at a recipe for tabbouleh, typically it will tell you, Roma tomatoes, and you just slice them up nice and small. But I went ahead and, sliced these in half ahead of time. So I'm going to pour those in there. The recipe that I am following, optional, you can add some hemp seeds. And it, suggests 1/4 of a cup to 1/2 of a cup. And so I have 1/4 of a cup that I'm going to go ahead and put in there. That adds a little bit of protein. So it's a really simple way to get a little bit more in there. I have 1 cucumber, and the ingredients that I happen to be using are all organic, but they do suggest that when you cut the cucumber, you take a spoon and de-seed it. So you just swipe those you swipe the seeds right out with a spoon, cut them up nice and small. I really like to chop up all of my vegetables nice and small. I think that it adds more to the flavor as well as, makes it a little bit easier to eat and mix. Red onion is another ingredient, and it calls for just 3 tablespoons, so it's not a whole heck of a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. And scallions, and it does call for a bunch of scallions, which is just the green onions, and you'll put that in, and we'll just mix that up with some olive oil and lemon juice, and they recommend fresh squeezed. I did not happen to have any lemons today, but I do have, and I really love this stuff. This is Santa Cruz organic fresh squeezed lemon juice that you can find in the grocery store, and it keeps for a good long while. So this is something that I always have in the fridge, because lemons, typically I do go through lemons very fast, but when you're looking for a recipe and you don't need, I didn't want to run to the store just to make the tabbouleh. So, and we're just going to mix in the olive oil and lemon juice. Spoon. And that is about it for the tabbouleh. The last ingredient, which is on the stove here. Now I'm using millet instead of the typical bulgur wheat, and I'm using that because it's gluten-free. Not everyone needs to be gluten-free. I also happen to like millet, but the millet adds a very nice touch. It's a grain, nice whole grain there, so that you're getting even more fiber and mixing this all together. Sometimes, this isn't, a vegan, way to make it, but sometimes I'll add some feta cheese in on the side. Today I'm going to be actually pairing it with some, it's a variation on chicken shawarma, and I haven't tried it before, but I've got the mixture here, and instead of chicken I'm using jackfruit. That's not something that I have tried before in this particular recipe, but I figured, why not? Why not give it a try? I often will go through and take a look at some of the different meat recipes and see if I can play around with a little bit and make it plant-based. Even if you're not vegetarian or vegan, it's just a nice way to try to incorporate as many vegetables and plant-based products, get those phytochemicals in your system. So, and that's it for today, the tabbouleh. Enjoy.